The Razer Blade 15 Advanced is a thinner gaming laptop with some powerful specs inside, but this means there are some important compromises that you need to know about. Overall, the build quality was good. It's aluminium, or aluminum based on where you're from, and it feels quite strong and rigid. But there was some flex if you go out of your way and look for it. No issues during normal use though. I think the matte black finish looks nice, but it's quite the fingerprint magnet. Oh, and of course the lid logo lights up green. The front edge could feel a little sharp depending on what angle you brush up against it though. The high-end specs are honestly quite impressive when we consider that it's just 0.7 inches thick. It's quite portable for a 15-inch laptop. As expected, these higher-end specs result in excellent gaming performance. And the Blade also gives us the option of disabling Optimus, which gives us further performance boosts. Unfortunately, this still requires a reboot to complete. Razer aren't yet using Nvidia's new advanced Optimus. The 300Hz screen has a 3.8 millisecond response time, so pretty good for gaming. The color gamut is decent, but the brightness is a bit lower than what I would have liked to have seen. I think 300 nits is a good sweet spot. We can see the first potential issue of a slimmer machine when we look inside. There's only room for one M.2 storage slot, so future upgrades could be annoying. Otherwise inside we've also got the fairly large 80 watt-hour battery down the front, 2 memory slots in the middle, Wi-Fi 6 card on the right, and vapor chamber cooler up the back. The battery life was pretty decent for a gaming laptop of this spec. I was getting over 7 hours in my YouTube playback test, and of course less if you have Optimus disabled. Most laptops have different power limits depending on the workload being run. For instance, with the Blade 15 Advanced, what happens when you're running a game is the GPU will max out at 90 watts, while the CPU will run up to 55 watts in the highest performance mode. Now what most other laptops will do is they'll take that GPU power that's not being used when the GPU is idle, and it'll boost the CPU up even higher to get extra performance. Because there's thermal headroom and power available, so why not, right? For whatever reason, the Razer Blade 15 Advanced just doesn't do this. So in a CPU-only workload, it still only maxes the CPU out at 55 watts. Now you could argue that that still is above the Intel 45 watt spec, but when it comes down to it, most other laptops will boost the processor much higher than this. And as a result, when we do multi-core CPU workloads like Cinebench R20 for instance, we're seeing scores that are similar to other 6-core laptops when this laptop has 8 cores. And when I tested other workloads like Adobe Photoshop, I was seeing pretty low performance. So if you need to do CPU heavy workloads, I'd probably recommend looking at something else other than this. Now that said though, as mentioned, it does do very well in games. The power limits are fair there. It's only when you're out of games and not using the GPU where the CPU isn't able to reach its full potential. I'm not sure why this is the case. My only guess is so that it doesn't get too hot. And to Razer's credit, the fans definitely don't get as loud as many other gaming laptops out there that I've tested. It says it uses Nvidia's new Max-Q dynamic boost, but I never really saw much boosting. Again, I guess it's limited due to the thinner chassis. That's always going to be a trade-off between power and size. There is at least some pretty decent I/O here. The left has the power input, 2 USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-A ports, USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-C port, and 3.5mm audio combo jack. The right has a full-size UHS 3 SD card slot which is fast, Thunderbolt 3 Type-C port, third USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-A port, HDMI 2.0B output, and Kensington lock. Now all of those display outputs do connect directly to the Nvidia graphics, so you're good to go for VR. And both of those Type-C ports can also be used to charge the machine. The per-key RGB keyboard was good to use after a little getting used to, but I wasn't a fan of the small arrow keys. There are front-facing speakers on either side of the keyboard, but I thought they were pretty average sounding. The Glass Precision touchpad is large and great to use. The 720p camera is up the top and it's got IR for Windows Hello support which works well, but the camera quality was pretty bad considering I'm in a pretty well lit room. So the Blade 15 Advanced isn't the most powerful gaming laptop. It's not trying to be, and that's fine. Razer have put an emphasis on design and are trying to keep it somewhat thin. So when combined with the fans not getting as loud as others, I think the gaming performance is quite good. The 3.8 millisecond 300Hz screen is a great match, but at this price point, the option of G-Sync might have been better. If you're doing CPU heavy work like rendering though, I'd probably look elsewhere. When it comes down to it though, the Blade is meant to be a gaming laptop, and it does do that quite well. But why take my word for it when I can show you how it performs in 20 different games at all setting levels in this video here. I've also compared it against some other gaming laptops so you can see how it stacks up. So I'll see you over in that one. Oh, and if you're new here, then definitely get subscribed for future laptop reviews like this one.